or welcome back to the Night Sky Knitting Podcast. My name is Rachel, I am your host, and I am coming to you from Ottawa, Canada, where I live to attend grad school. And this is my chatty outlet to talk all things crafts, but predominantly and usually almost entirely knitting, to avoid letting this take over my personality and the things that I talk about with the people I love so they don't hate me. It is Wednesday, November 24th. I think it's been 2.5 weeks since I last filmed. And I chose today because it's sunny and I have a little bit of free time, but I feel a little bit scattered and I hope it doesn't come across too much in the podcast. And I wanted to say, but since the last time I filmed, we have hit both 100 and 200 subscribers on this channel, and I don't think that was even like a goal that we were close to the last time I filmed. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone for being here. Thank you so much to the people who were here before those milestones. Thank you to the people who have subscribed in part of reaching that. I don't really know what to say, but that's kind of a lot when I think about it in terms of all the individual people who hit a subscribe button or liked a video or commented, and I'm grateful to each and every one of you for being here with me. And yeah, thank you so much. It's so nice to have you here. I thought like 50 was a big deal to me, and now there's over 200 of you, and that's pretty wild if you think about it, or at least if I think about it. I think that's pretty wild. So that's cool, thanks. And also, what I'm wearing. I was going to wear my cotton grass jumper for the podcast because I think I'm going to wear that when I go out later today to meet my brother, but it's too hot sitting in front of the window that I've started filming in front of. So instead I am wearing my, I think it's the, Jessie May has two free or partially free or formerly free tank top patterns, crop top patterns. This is the knot ribbed one. They have strikingly similar names and I always mix them up. I've knit both. But this is, I think this is my secret summer crop. It's the knot ribbed one. But yeah, this is it. Wearing it with a store-bought cardigan. I knit it in the Hobby or Hobie yarn Go Handmade line. It's a tencel bamboo mix, and it is so incredibly wonderful to wear on the skin. It washes pretty well. It stretches out kind of quickly, but that's okay. It snaps right back into the place as soon as you wash it, and it's such a fantastic underlayer or just on its own in the summertime. However, it is such a pain to work with. It's so splitty, and it's both like kind of grippy to slide across the needles, but then like slippery, so like the second you drop a stitch it just kind of goes boom down there. And it was absolutely worth it for the finished product, but man, like I want more things in that yarn, but I'm not looking forward to knitting them in that yarn. That was a bit of a tangent. I really love this top, but the yarn, the yarn. It was also quite affordable. So, I mean, I guess the price is how much I didn't love knitting with it, but still. I'm also wearing my vanilla footshop vanilla latte sock in my patons kroy yarn that I knit with constantly. This is in the Sunset Stripes colorway. I made these a few months ago. I love them so much. They're a little bit big, but they're so comfortable for wearing around the house. I knit these on a 2.75 millimeter needle, and I think for all my patons kroy stuff since I've gone down one size to a 2.5, which is just hit a needle on my pile of yarn and whips. So apologize for the noise, but saying that I now have gone down one needle size for all my other patons kroy sock projects is a great transition to show you my first and only finished object for this week, for this episode, which is my pair of patons kroy Woodsie socks that I knit for my brother. I talked about these at length in the last episode before I finished the second one. I love them. Knitting them. I love how the colorway turned out. This is Woodsie. Knit these on a 2.5 millimeter needle, which is a US 1.5. And I don't know what it is, but I really just I love 3x1 rib. This is Wise Hilda's basic ribbed sock, and I think it's a great gift sock pattern. I'm probably going to knit a pair of all rib socks. I like how the rib it's not separate up here, it's just the whole thing. Probably gonna knit something similar for myself in the future with another patons kroy colorway. Yeah, so I got 2 of them. He came over to play board games with me and my boyfriend and my roommate when my boyfriend Nathan was visiting. Hi Nathan, if you're watching this. He asked if he could subscribe finally, and I said yes, but I don't think he's going to be watching these videos. So I don't know, I mean, that's really sweet of him to want to subscribe, but like, you're not watching. Anyway, that's a good thing, because I want to talk later about gift knits for him. I'm all over the place. My sincere apologies. Good socks. Really enjoyed knitting them. When my brother came over to play board games, I made him close his eyes and try the first one on and tell me how the fit was, and he said it was just a little bit short, like lengthwise on the foot. He loved the length of the leg, and so I'm really hoping that these block out just like half a centimeter, not even I don't think. But just in case I knit the second one a little bit longer, because his feet aren't really the same size, neither are my mother's. And so I'll just be like, the one with the green tip at the end, that's for your long foot. The one with the yellow tip toe, short foot. But yeah, that is my one and only finished Christmas knit. That's not true. It's not my only finished Christmas knit. It's just my only finished knit for this episode. Yeah, really happy with them. Gonna put them on the floor. Next. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about how the past couple weeks have been for me to kind of give you an idea of where we are now with the knitting. I have a bunch of Christmas knits to do. I am also in school full-time, which means I have all my deadlines right now. Or I have a lot of papers due. I have a paper due this week. We got a little bit of an extension, but I still want it done for the original deadline. I have funding application deadlines due next week. I have papers to grade for the class that I'm a teaching assistant for. And then I have all my Christmas knits, which I kind of signed up to do. But yeah, so that was kind of, I was also working on my fortune sweater, which I think that'll be the next clip I show you. I was also working on my fortune sweater that I'm knitting in drops brushed alpaca silk. And I thought, that's great. You know, I knit on my one selfish knit sweater as a break from all my gift socks. And I just knit on my socks and do my schoolwork and be a social human in between. And that's a pretty good life. I apply just in general for test knits every so often when I see one that I really want to knit, and I never am accepted. I think probably for a lot of reasons. I think I normally wear a very common size. I have a 34-inch bust, and I think that's a slot that fills up very quickly. I also don't have a very big social media presence, and I've been trying to make efforts to step up my photographing for my Instagram, but I often didn't show them on my body because I didn't like showing people. It took me a little while to warm up to showing people what I look like on Instagram, even though I have this podcast. I didn't used to post that often. So I think for a lot of reasons, and also like, you know, the individual designer's preferences and all these different things, I just wasn't ever selected for test knits, and that was fine. I just kind of keep applying, but it's a wobbly desk. I applied for one a couple weeks ago called the Folly Dolly Jumper by Yellyswonders. Assuming, again, it was beautiful, and I thought it would be lovely to knit, but assuming I wouldn't get it. And then I was also the Knit Pearl Girl. Her name is Sophie. If you're on Instagram, you've probably seen her designs. She's massively popular. I have one of her sweater patterns, but I haven't really knit it yet. That's a whole other story. I'm going to knit soon. Her classic Aosta cardigan, not cardigan, sweater. I don't know why I said cardigan. It's a pullover. She posted a bunch of photos over the last month or so of her Crescendo blouse that she just finished designing, and then, you know, kept saying call for testers coming soon. And so at one point she posted another of the sweater version of the blouse, and I commented, you know, this is gorgeous. I was wondering if the call for testers had already come out for the blouse, and she responded a few hours later saying, yes, it has in my newsletter, but there are still a few sizes that hadn't been filled, and I'll have a public testing call soon. And then DM'd me to say, hey, I looked at your profile, and I'd love to have you test knit if you want. I think she said because I'm a left-handed knitter, and she wanted to make sure that the lace yoke, which the Crescendo blouse has, would work for people who knit both directions. because, for example, I knit, my working needle is the left-hand needle, not the right-hand needle, and so charts and directional knitting is a little bit of a switch. It's not difficult if you're a left-handed knitter, you know, or a mirror knitter, it's also called. But yeah, she said, do you still want to test it? You know, I'd be happy to have you on board. I was like, yes, because I've been kind of stalking this pattern for a little while. Like I was going to knit it regardless if I got the test or not. But that was kind of huge for me that like someone saw and she also said that, you know, she liked my makes and he would be happy to have me test. And I was like, that's amazing. That's so cool. I'm so incredibly lucky. And also I guess my efforts towards, you know, posting nicer photos and posting photos of projects on me have kind of, you know, been helping. And not just like engaging in the community. So I'm part of 2 test knits, which I think for a lot of podcasters that's normally a very commonplace thing, but not for me. I've test knit one other thing in the past, and that was in the spring, and I think that was because it was a much lower stakes test knit, because the designer had already released the pattern as one size and was just testing it to make sure that to update the grading to have a bunch of different sizes. So I thought that was really cool. So I don't get test knits. And so when I was offered a slot in 2, I certainly said yes. And then I thought about it and I was so excited. And then I thought about it and I was like, so you just added 2 more deadlines to an incredibly deadline heavy time in your, maybe the most deadline heavy time for both knitting and just life in general and your work, Rachel, and your school. And I was like, wow, that was a bit of a short-sighted move. But I don't think it's going to be too much because it hasn't been so far. So that has effectively meant that I have 2 things that we've never discussed in the last episode to show you. And also my little fortune sweater that I've been filming a project-specific vlog for as well on the side. This guy is very much kind of on the back burner right now, which is kind of a shame because I love it so much, but also what's the rush, you know? This is going to be not really warm enough to wear this winter anyway for my climate and also just how cold I get. And so, like, if I put it off to the side for a month or 2, I'll still finish it for spring, summer, and other new exciting things have happened. And, you know, knitting is, for me, a reminder to be slow. But I have split for sleeves, or I had split for sleeves before this happened. Still obsessed with it. And I made it about this far on the body. You can't really see it right now, but there's one little clover. There, yeah, clover. Before my knitting list of priorities kind of changed. But yeah, it's still gorgeous. I'm still incredibly excited to continue working on it and wear it. But we've got some new things on the roster. And that's really cool and I'm excited. So yeah, that's the fortune sweater update. Again, hopefully in, I don't know, at this point 2 months, I'll have a video just dedicated to it on its own because I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, we have new and shiny whips now. The first of which is the Folly Dolly jumper pattern by, nope, I didn't bring the other sleeve. Yellyswonders. I think her actual name is Aniela. She's Polish. So yeah, here it's a bottom-up sweater with a really, really, really cool stitch pattern in my opinion that is just so much fun to knit. So here is the first sleeve. I'm going to try and keep the needles from clanging. Sleeve. 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 Maybe I'll put it on for you guys. Is that weird? Sleeve. I'm gonna knit it. I'm aiming to have it at like a 3/4 length or a bracelet length sleeve, so it's just past the elbow for me. Got a few more inches to go. How sad is it that like when I show this to you guys, it looks like so short. Like it looks like I've knit nothing because I haven't really knit that much. Like this doesn't look like a lot. This looks like maybe not even half of a sleeve, and then I put it on for the length that I want, and I only have like a few more inches to go to give you an idea of how short my arms are. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this. I'm knitting it on 6.5 millimeter needles, which is a US 10.5. this bad boy, which is a pretty thick needle, and I'm knitting this with 1 strand drops air in forest green. It's a little bit more green, and actually no, that's pretty true to color, I'd say. And then 1 strand brushed alpaca silk in just green. The pattern calls for 2 strands of Hobie Divina yarn, which is, I think, a dupe for drops air, and I swatched it with 2 strands held together, like the suggested in the sample. And it was just too tight a fabric for me. I wanted something with just a little bit more drape, and this is a pretty chunky, like, fluff yarn, and so the combination of the two I really, really like in terms of, like, it's just the softest thing in the entire world. Maybe not the entire world, but pretty darn close. I will say the combination of these 2 yarns, which are both fluffy on their own, has made it, there's not as much stitch definition. Like, the really gorgeous stitch pattern that's the whole thing is a little bit less prominent, but I don't think I dislike that. I think that might make it not more wearable, because it's already a pretty wearable basic stitch pattern, but I don't think that's a problem for me. I went up a needle size. The pattern calls for 3mm. Where is my brain? The wrong words are just coming out. Pattern calls for a 6mm needle, which is a US 10, and I swatched and I swatched and I swatched with that, and I just looked different yarn combinations, and at one point, and it was just like wildly, like just way too tight. It was A, unpleasant to knit with, and B, the fabric was like so many stitches off. So I went up to a 6.5, and that's been great. Yeah, I've already knit 1 sleeve, and this is the second one. I've got a few more inches to go, as you saw, and then I'll put this one on hold too, and then I start the body. And I started knitting this about a week ago, and I've already finished 1 sleeve and I'm mostly done the other. Because it's knit, I'm on chunkier needles, 6mm or 6.5. It goes by very, very quickly. And the stitch pattern is super easy to memorize, and in my opinion, the perfect combination of, like, not just stockinette, but not too much more than stockinette, that you have to have the chart or instructions. There's no chart. You don't have to have the instructions open the whole time. And I'm really excited to have the final object. And it's going by quite quickly, which is part of the reason why I'm not concerned about adding it to my list of deadline knits, especially since, in my opinion, she's quite generous with testing deadlines, especially considering this is a chunky knit. Like, the first 3 sizes, I'm knitting the 3rd size because I wanted a little bit more positive ease. We have 2 months, and then I think the next 3 sizes have like 2.5 months, and the next 3 sizes after that have 3 months to knit, which I think is quite generous, which is quite accommodating and accessible for a designer to do, and I appreciate that greatly. And I kind of want this to be my Christmas sweater, because I think it's a nice Christmassy color. I think that these 2 yarns paired together quite well color-wise. I got these from Knit-O-Matic in Toronto using the last of my gift card for my birthday, and I think I'll talk about that a little bit more in the acquisition section. This is my first bottom-up sweater, so I think that that's fun for me to test, and I put off bottom-up sweaters because I was quite nervous, or my bottom-up in the round sweaters for me. I knit one for my friend, but not with the sleeves first kind of thing, and you attach them. Like, I knit it, split for sleeves, and then picked up stitches and knit the sleeve down when I'd finished the body and joined at the shoulders. And I'm finding so far that I really like it. It's not Sleeve Island with a bottom-up sweater if you start with the sleeves. It just feels like a way to accomplish things for a rather large project rather quickly, and kind of almost function as like an extra backup gauge swatch to make sure that my gauge is correct. And also that means that by the time I start the body, like, I've already done a significant portion of it. And yeah, you get the instant gratification of, not instant, but the faster gratification of, like, finishing a part of it, which I think is sometimes good for maintaining momentum on a bigger project. But yeah, that is my first whip and my second ever test. I am really, really enjoying it. I'm excited to keep you guys posted. I think my goal is to finish this soon, because I still don't want to have more than 1 sweater as an active project. And so this is my sweater project when I'm taking a break from all my gift knitting. And then if I finish this in the next, like, 3 weeks, I think, I mean, let's see how exams go and how much time I have. But if I finish this in the next 3 weeks, then I can just focus my attention entirely on the Crescendo blouse and get that done for the deadline, which is just, I think, a couple days after this deadline, and be happy and wear both. So yeah, that is my first whip, the Folly Dolly. I'm gonna also just put this on the floor next to me. I hope that wasn't loud. Okay, I'm gonna take a little coffee break. Oh, I have a sheet mug. I got this from Value Village way before I started really intensely knitting. I'm drinking instant coffee, and I'm trying to drink it in my slightly smaller mug so I don't drink too much, because I think I've found that as much as I don't want to be, I'm quite sensitive to caffeine, and I'm trying to consume less, but it's the morning, so coffee's allowed. Okay, so I think from here, we're going to go still in chronological order, and we're going to talk about my mom's Christmas socks, because she also asked for a pair. And I cast them on immediately after finishing my brother's because I didn't want to lose sock momentum. And I just really like socks. So these are, surprise, surprise, also knit in patons kroy. However, this is the turquoise waters colorway. Here's the back, so you can get an idea of what the colorway looks like knit up in stockinette. It's a shorter repeat than the sunset stripes or the Woodsie. I think like from the top, like that little bit of turquoise down to here, that's one repeat. I've done 2. Once more, these are on a 2.5 millimeter needle, which is a 1.5 US size. I did 64 stitches for my mom. And the front I'm doing in this broken rib pattern. I'm doing 2 rows of stockinette and then 1 row of knit 1, purl 1. Because this is the first time I'm knitting socks for other people, I'm prioritizing fit and stretchy stitch patterns to try and get them to fit. And I sent a photo of broken rib to my mom and she liked it. I'm not sure if I love it in this colorway, but I also don't want to be a perfectionist and nitpick, because the only other thing I would do is just like a proper ribbed sock, and I wanted something slightly more interesting for my mom, and she really liked the broken rib. I think I just don't like how the purled color work is looking in this colorway, because this colorway, I think I had really high hopes for it in the ball, and it hasn't been as nice as I wanted, but I think it's still my mom's colors and also their socks. And they'll be warm and they'll be comfy. So yeah, I have literally just done the first heel stitch. You can't see it still, like it's done nothing. It really just still looks like a tube. If anything, this episode could be just like deadline knits and also tubes, because I have 2 sweater sleeve tubes and just a bunch of sock tubes, but tube knits. I don't know why that's funny to me. I'm going to be doing a fish lips kiss heel, because my mom has watched me knit a bunch of socks and she's really suspicious of the heel flap and gusset construction. She's convinced that it's going to rub and that it doesn't lie smooth, and she doesn't want too much texture on all the bottom parts of her sock. And when I showed her I don't have them nearby, my Bear Mountain socks that had the first and only other time I've used a fish lips kiss heel, she really liked the look of that, and she really thinks that'll fit her foot better, and I'm going to do so, you know, like if she prefers that, it's a gift for her. Also, I like the fish lips kiss heel construction. It's a nice break from all my heel flap and gusset projects, so that's what we're doing. I was kind of really quickly trying to get a little bit more of this done to show you, and then I was like, I don't want the podcast to be some type of pressure, and how weird is it that I'm like rushing to get a little bit more of a sock done to show people, to make them think that I've been like more productive. Like I was like, what kind of headspace am I letting myself get into there? I was like, this is so weird, like they don't care. It's still not going to be a finished object by the time I film like 30 minutes from when I have this whole thing in my head. But yeah, I have started the heel. This is the length of sock leg she wanted, I think, for her boots. Yeah, I'm excited. Well, not as excited about as the Woodsie ones. I think I wanted more from this colorway. But here's what it looks like in the ball, just in case. Turquoise waters. I don't know, I thought it was going to be a little bit more like... I thought we'd have more of these bits. The green and the pale green and the pale blue, but it really is mostly turquoise. But I think that's okay. And also, I think the way that it's knitting out with the pattern repeat is that the cuff and the heel are going to be mostly the big block of turquoise with the little navy in between. And I think that'll be cool. But yeah, so I cast these on literally after I put the tapestry needle down from weaving in the ends of my brother's sock, and I picked up the knitting needles again to cast on this one. And this has been my on-the-go project. You guys know my on-the-go project bag. I started taking the closest thing Ottawa has to a subway, which is a light rail line. How are we doing on time? Okay. So Ottawa's closest thing to a subway was down for 2.5 months. It's a light rail. It's almost like a streetcar that goes underground for certain portions. I really like it, but it was down for 2.5 months for a reason. It derailed. No one got hurt, I don't think, but it derailed one of the cars, so they had to shut the whole thing down for a while. And parts of it are still down. So I was walking everywhere or taking the bus. And the weather was lovely, so that was nice. But now that it's up again, and it's routinely below freezing when I'm going home in the dark from campus, I am sometimes taking the O train part of the way back. And so I've been taking my socks with me to knit on the train. And also, like, I've been studying in the library a lot with my friends, which is great because I have friends now. And it's so wonderful to be able to work with other people. But you know, you get a little bit off topic and you're like just kind of chatting for 20 minutes in between working. Well, I've taken my socks and I start knitting on them while we're chatting to make that a little bit more of a productive time for me. Not that productivity is key, but I'm feeling a little bit of the pressure with the Christmas gift knits. And, you know, getting those extra rows in just means that it goes by a little bit faster and it's a little bit less pressure, which is nice. So that's kind of my on-the-go project right now. My other, and the same day that I cast on that, I was so relieved to have one of the Christmas pairs of socks done that I also immediately cast on for my grandfather's pair, because my mom keeps saying not to prioritize hers and to prioritize the pair for my grandfather because his health isn't so good and it's just important that he gets his socks. And it makes him so happy when I talk about my knitting. And so I talked about this in my last episode, but they hadn't arrived yet. But this is my one acquisition of the last episode. I got 3 balls of the West Yorkshire Spinners Air Valley DK. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced it. I never know what's going on with UK Irish spellings. Well, this is West Yorkshire, so it's not going to be Irish. This is the label. Am I overthinking it? Is it just Air Valley? This. I got 3 balls of it, which I now realize is so much more than I needed. But that's okay, better than not having enough. And I started a pair of DK weight socks for my grandfather. So this is a rainbow colorway that I used very, very little of for the cuff. And then what we're doing is a 3x1 rib, my new favorite it seems, cuff that goes into a 3x1 rib front, and then just stocking it in the back. This is on 3.25 millimeter needles, which is a US 3. And I did a 68 stitch count. And I've been moving more slowly on these because I'm worried they're going to be too big, but I don't want to start again because then what if they're too small? My grandfather is huge. He's kind of shrunk because he's 85, and I think he used to be very tall, and he's still very broad. And since the surgery that he had a couple years ago, his calves and his ankles and his feet in general are just so swollen all the time. And so I emailed my step-grandma, who's also a knitter, to ask about his shoe size and also just like any sock specifications that might be good. And she gave me a lot of really good information, but obviously she can't measure without him knowing something is up. And so my mom just kept, I kept asking my mom, and she said, just make sure it's not too small. And so I ended up casting on this sock, and I've been moving slowly on this because I keep looking at it and being like, that's too big. And then I knit on it a little bit, and then I'm like, no, it's not, it's gonna be fine. And then I knit a few rounds, and I look at it, and I think that's gonna be too big, but I don't wanna frog it, and so I just put it aside and work on my mom's sock instead, which is bad. But also, I have like an extra day, because we're going to probably see him on Boxing Day as opposed to Christmas proper. And I have to have the other socks done for Christmas proper, and then I can just knit on them in Christmas if I need to. But also, the socks are moving along quickly. It's still November. Things are fine. So, I don't know. Like, I like the way that they're knitting up. I think that this very much fits the bill of a psychedelic sock, like his mother used to knit him, which is my goal. Is this going to be huge? Like, I was looking at it in comparison to the sleeve of the Folly Dolly, and I was like, oh no, that's just like, this is a sleeve, and then this is the sock? Like, why is this bigger? I don't know what to do, and I kind of need to figure it out soon. Like, this is what it is not stretched out for me to knit, because I didn't want to knit magic loop, and so these are on my, like, not 11-inch circulars, 14-inch circulars. No, these are my, like, 11 or 12-inch circulars. And so this is, like, what is that, 10 inches around? Plus they're stretchy. And they're a DK weight, so they're a little bit chunkier, but he's not going to be wearing these in shoes. He almost never leaves the house. These are going to be for wearing in his slippers, or just barefoot. Not barefoot, in stocking feet. So, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do. My mom says it's probably fine. Maybe what I'll do is I'll keep knitting this for a little bit and then subtly decrease as we go into the heel flap and gusset, and decrease down to a 64-inch sock, and then maybe decrease down a little bit more to a 62-inch for the foot after I've turned the heel. Maybe that's the move. Yeah. Got this on sale. This is part of my acquisitions. I paid $32.30 from the web shop, and like, I think like a third of that was shipping. So that was pretty cool. And it's a wool nylon blend, machine washable, not going to be a pain for him to care for, / realistically for my step grandma to care for. And he, like, wool, it was very important that they be wool, because apparently back in the day, a lot of sock yarn used to be just nylon, and which I think was cheap and accessible, and you got really fun colors, but was like not fun to wear. And so my grandfather talked about that when we were talking about socks, because his grandmother, his mother, my great-grandmother, Kathleen, who I'm sort of named for, my middle name, it's a long story. She would knit them all nylon socks, and so my grandfather was like, this is wool? I was like, yeah, not this, the sock I was knitting. And he was like, there's really no better fabric, no better fiber, there's no better fabric cloth you can make than wool. And I agree. So it's really important that these be wool. And I did that. It's from the UK, which is also important, because my grandfather, both his parents were, one was British, one was Irish, or one was English, one was Irish. Yeah. They're really fast, though. It's a DK weight, and even though it's a 68 is the same stitch count as the ones for my brother. And again, like, my brother has pretty wide calves. And, like, look at the difference in the size for these two. I mean, these are pretty... So if I was, like, to stretch them out versus... Still, I don't know. I'm not feeling confident. Maybe I should just rip the whole thing back. Okay, at this point I'm now rambling to you guys. You've got the gist of it. Yeah. And then... Oh, this might be all the whips. yeah, those are I think all the whips. We have the Folly Dolly Jumper. We have my mother's vanilla socks. We have my grandfather's 3x1 rib DK socks. We have the currently on hiatus Fortune sweater. And then I have started swatching for the Crescendo blouse by the Knit Pro World. But I haven't finished swatching. So here's the beginning of my swatch. I am knitting this, okay. So, I just really want to cast it on. Like, I know that that's a bad idea for me right now when I have other things on the go. I know that that works for other people, but it doesn't really work for me. But I thought I could at least swatch, you know? So I did. And the pattern calls for a 4.5 millimeter needle, which is a US 7. And I'm quite proud of myself for getting good at memorizing both, like the size in US and the millimeters. It's a small thing, but working on my memory. I started swatching with that for that little row of pearls that's just below the cord. And the fabric feels so nice. I'm knitting it with one strand of Aloft, which is Knit Picks' mohair in the shade Kenai. This is the ball band. And then one strand of Cascade Heritage Solids, which is a sock yarn, which this is what it looks like. I got this in the same order that I purchased these, using the last of my birthday money for yarn from my mom. And then this, I talked about this in my first episode, which is a little bit of a disaster. But I got really weirdly lucky, or Knit Picks got unlucky, or this woman named Emily in the United States got unlucky, in that a couple episodes ago I talked about the one that I want crop, which I knit in Knit Picks Comfy Worsted. I ordered 3 balls of Comfy Worsted, which is in my opinion, very good, but still a budget cotton acrylic blend. It's 75% Pima cotton, 25% acrylic. I ordered 3 balls. And then I went to Montreal. And I live in Canada, so everything takes longer to get here. And while I was in Montreal, I got an email from Knit Picks, very apologetic, saying, "We're so sorry, but we actually swapped your package with somebody else's. So your yarn went to someone else with this name. And if you receive a package for this name at your house, that was a mix-up. You can keep the yarn. You don't have to send it back. And we sent your actual yarn immediately. We're very sorry." So I was like, that's funny. And I came home and I opened the package. It had arrived. And it was 4 balls of mohair silk. So in this really gorgeous teal, which I would say that's a pretty accurate color, I think. Yeah. So poor Emily in the United States got 3 balls of cotton acrylic instead of her 4 balls of mohair silk, and I got 4 balls of mohair silk free. So that was awesome. I've never knit with mohair before. This is actually a color I quite like. I don't think I would buy this for myself because I'm not bold enough, but it's something I would wear. And so I was just kind of waiting for a good project to use it for, because I'm trying to reduce the stash, not overconsume. And also mohair in general is just kind of out of my budget, out of my price range. So I was in no rush to try it, especially since it adds so much more money to a project. And I'm kind of a little wool sensitive sometimes, and so I assumed I would also be very mohair sensitive. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to have proven to be the case. We'll see. We'll see what it's like when I wear it. But I thought the Crescendo blouse, which is simple as in 1 strand lace weight mohair and 1 strand fingering weight wool, I assumed, I thought this is a great opportunity to use the mohair that I have in my stash. And so while I was purchasing this from Knitomatic, I looked at the rest of their site because I really like their yarn selection, and their owner has a bird and she's nice to me. And this Cascade Heritage sock this is the shade Como. Seemed like a really perfect match. And I waffled over it for a day or so, but I really wanted to start on the test knits as soon as possible, so I ordered it. And like seriously, like I guessed this on a computer screen, and it really is. I think it's more of a perfect match than these. And I'd seen both of these in person, just not in the store. I just hadn't thought to look at them together because I didn't know I was going to be testing the Folly Dolly back when I was there, like for Thanksgiving 2 months ago. So I'm very happy with the color match and the colors in general. This is so soft. It's superwash merino and nylon, and it was quite budget friendly in Canadian dollars. So I started swatching, and the fabric is really, really nice. That was a really long way of saying I've never tried mohair before, and unfortunately I think I really like it. Because the fabric, it's lovely, like it's what everybody said it would be, and I was quite skeptical, except for maybe the first time in my life, I'm knitting kind of loosely compared to the gauge, and so I've just like this little row of pearls on the swatch is me marking that I've gone down a needle size, and I've continued swatching. I know that I should normally swatch in the round for an in the round project, but she said to swatch flat, so I'm doing that. And I just think it's nice. But we're not going to start that. We're not going to start that until at least a couple other things are done. But I wanted to show you. Yeah, so that's kind of my immediate roster of knitting plans for a little while. More and more patterns are kind of creeping up that I really want to knit. But I think I might talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. Okay, we're at 41 minutes right now. And maybe just make another separate video about it. So, acquisitions. At this point, I've kind of talked about most of them. I got 3 balls of this Drops Air. I got 3 balls of the brushed alpaca silk. I'm holding them together. I'm playing Yarn Chicken. I'm almost certainly going to have to buy more, but I didn't want to right now because of budget concerns, and also I think I might be able to squeeze it, and if I can, that's great, and I'll be annoyed if I had to buy the extra 2 balls. I bought 2 of these to go with the 4 I had of these for the Crescendo blouse, and these were both $16 in Canadian and change, and I needed 2 for the yardage estimates based on my size, which is quite affordable if you think about, I don't know, I was in Canada, like things are just expensive, and I was looking at maybe using Holst Garn Super Soft, but that's about a little over $9 per 50 grams here, and I did the math, and I was like, wait a minute, buying 2 of these, which is a softer yarn that I have at a store that I have a gift card for, I still save like $4 or $5, so I did that. And I think that Holst Garn Super Soft is known as a budget fingering weight yarn, so that I found an alternative that was even softer and less expensive. It's quite exciting to me. So I ended up spending $52.50 on that, not including, and that has subtracted, that is after the last of my gift card money has been used, and it arrived in less than 24 hours. Knitomatic is like 450 kilometers away from me in Ottawa, and it still arrived so quickly. And also they included this little stitch marker, which I had been resisting using so I could show you in the packaging. It's from Firefly Notes Online, which is a BC, British Columbia based, the opposite end of Canada, maker. And I don't know if they included this because they do that with all orders that are shipped, or if they're kind of like more than a couple balls of yarn, because I ordered 8 balls of yarn, wow. Or if it's because they recognize my name and address because I go there a lot. Either way, they included this for free, and I thought that was really, really nice and sweet. So that's most of my acquisitions. Also, you guys might remember a couple episodes ago, I won the Heather and Hops. I was a winner of 3 of the Heather and Hops 3-year giveaway. And the stuff arrived, and I'm kind of blown away by it. So, the lighting's getting not very good. But, my hair also is, okay, you know what? Focus on the content, Rachel. that actually matters, which is talking about yarn and knitting. My package arrived from Kat and Alex, and she mentioned that it would be a couple skeins of Marina skewers. Her friend Marina, who's also a designer and hand dyer, yarn. But then I opened the package, and it was these 2 skeins of yarn, which are just gorgeous and so rustic, and we'll talk about them in a second. But in this bag, which is now housing my petiteknit fortune sweater whip, mohair, no problems, and then had this little pack of lavender and hops, which smells really, really nice, and I'm going to put in my knitting drawer. And then also this package of tea from Alex, from the company that he works for / with Postcard Teas. This is a lemon pekoe, and it's from Sayandri, India. And again, I would have already made several cups of this, except I wanted to show you guys. So that is quite a lovely, lovely gift. She included this lovely card with her logo on it that I also, it was really sweet message inside. And I'm going to, so right above my desk, like right behind you guys, I have a bunch of postcards and letters and birthday cards and just things, like little papery mementos that aren't quite posters up there, so that when it's 2 in the morning and I'm like hunched and sad and typing my little papers, my silly little thoughts onto my silly little Microsoft Word processor, I can look up and remember beautiful places I've been and my wonderful relationships and lovely memories, and this is going to go there. So I'm incredibly grateful. I do not know what I'm going to knit with these because they're too rustic for me to wear against my skin because I'm a sensitive little baby. I think this is a character flaw, and I'm working on getting more comfortable with more rustic yarns. This is the Calendula 2 color, and this is the Avocado and Iron, and this is, Marina Skewa's Mending. Oh, this is the color Sunny, and this is the color, I don't know. It doesn't say the same way. The labels don't really match. But this is gorgeous, and it was sent to me by Kat, and I think that's just so wonderful, and I'm so lucky, and I'm so happy and grateful. Maybe slippers. I think this would make a really lovely pair of slippers, or maybe mittens. Yeah. So that's kind of everything. That's not true. I bought 2 patterns. Bought 2 patterns since I last filmed, one of which is the Magic Toadstool Socks by Stone Knits, and the other is the Blooming Lavender Socks by Stone Knits because the designer had a sale. This is a friendly reminder to correct your posture or take a little stretch if you're knitting. And I think there was a sale, and both of them ended up being, I think, about $5 Canadian, so I spent $10 on patterns, and one of which will be a pair of socks that I knit for a friend gift soon. And then the other, the Magic Toadstool Socks, I'm going to knit for myself using my leftover yarn from my Nostalgia socks and my Spring Rain socks that I knit earlier this year. And so in total, I've spent $62.50 on yarn since we last spoke. Not yarn, on knitting since we last spoke. And that's kind of a lot of money, but I haven't been spending a lot recently. And I'm doing my best to resist sales. So I'll keep you posted because I do want to be transparent about the cost of knitting. But it's an expensive hobby, and maybe I won't always be like, this is the exact amount that I spent, but I think right now it's a good way to keep me accountable and to talk about it in really concrete terms. Because I think often we're like, I spent a lot of money on yarn. That's how much money I spent on yarn. Because it's kind of an expensive hobby. Doesn't mean I don't love it, but it is. In terms of future knitting plans, finish the socks, finish the test knits, finish my fortune sweater, and then a few things are calling to me. I still want to knit the acorn socks, the pattern that I have. I want to knit the Magic Toadstool sock pattern that I have. I want to knit the rumpiest sock pattern that I have, but I do think that I'm going to be a little bit socked out by Christmas, and we'll see. I might do a dedicated winter knitting plans video would that appeal to you guys? Do you want to see a dedicated winter knitting patterns video? I think at this point I'm really rambling, and I'm sure you guys have other things you want to do and see and watch today. It's been fun. It's been really nice to catch up with you guys. I'll keep you posted on how things go. Looking forward to talking again soon. So, I wish you all the best. Let me know what you're knitting, and we'll talk again soon. Okay, bye. Bye.